Is the jig finally up? Have, at long last, lawmakers finally heard and listened to the outcry of men? Well, one such state has taken dramatic measures, and it has had remarkable results when it comes to divorce rates and custody. What might they have done? Well, we'll get right into it.
Divorces in Kentucky just collapsed by 25%. Not because couples suddenly found love again, but because the cash-out game is over. For decades, divorce was treated like a jackpot. Mom walks away with the kids. Mom walks away with the check. And dad? He's reduced to a weekend visitor and a paycheck.
One state just nuked its divorce rates by doing one rare thing that the rest of America would never dare.
And there is a real danger that the divorce rate is going down because it's harder for women to leave.
If I have my child half the time, why am I paying
Not
food
a rant.
support? Like I'm not even around. I'm feeding them, clothing them, taking them to school, wiping their tears, just like she is. But somehow only I have to pay up. This system don't reward fatherhood. It punishes it.
Kentucky.
So, the question is, what has this wonderful state of Kentucky done? Usually, it seems to be associated with backwoods hillbillies, no less. Racism? Misogyny? Oh, any other buzz, taboo words going around. That's what Kentucky was seen as. So, it may not come as any surprise to the feminists out there that they are the first to implement this sort of thing. And what have they done? Now, if we look back, when you go through a divorce historically, especially in states like California where they are wildly insane with their numbers, if you want the extra money, if you want little cherries on top and sprinkling from a financial point of view, what must they do? Well, whoever secures the custody often gets the crown jewel when it comes to that sort of thing. So I've always said if you abolished child support altogether, you would see a lot fewer loving mothers out there pursuing custody. So Kentucky has done something rather simple here. In the best interest of the child, as always, they have made the default position here 50-50 arrangements. What that means is rather than going to a courtroom and battling, spending a bunch of money and arguing over who gets what timeshare with the child, they simply boom, put it right at the start. The presumption would be here as a 50-50 arrangement. And that, oh God. Now I say women, but it's not always women. Just that historically that has been the case as far as the men providing and the women being the caregivers. And so that sort of dynamic was the presumption, and it still is in a good many places. So anyway, now you have to see how that factors in here when you no longer have that bargaining chip at the very beginning. You can't use that to pressure and force. It's gone by legal rights right out the gate. Huge, huge victory when it comes to divorce and separation here, where that contentious, conflict-fueled game, we'll call it, of divorce proceedings and custodial battles. Not for the best interests of the children, mind you. I mean, that is what is said on the surface. Though if you look at many such cases, you will find that is far from the truth. It is far removed from the minds of the nurturing mothers. And many of the fathers, they may not care for the children either, to be fair. They just don't want to have to pay money. So they will battle, dispute, bicker, spend a lot of money trying to get that. And so Kentucky has done a wonderful thing. And the results of it have been what? Today we are viewing Miss Remy Renee's channel here. Moms can't cash out anymore. A bit of clickbait. Divorce rates crash. Lawyers panic. Oh, this guy is falling. Remy, she may be getting a little carried away with it. She has that soft, demure personality as she presents it. Got a nice contrast to the clickbait style. Let's take a little listen, a little bit longer. A little longer here.
Kentucky flipped the script. They became the first state in America to pass a law making 50-50 custody the default. And the moment that happened, something incredible and honestly terrifying for some people was exposed. When women realized they could no longer cash out through the courts, divorce filing dropped overnight. A full quarter fewer divorces in one state compared to just 18% nationwide. Men call it fairness.
I think they dropped by 25% or so in Kentucky, that is. Now, you have to wonder if was there any other substantial change that took place around this time? Or do the two seem to coincide? We now have 50-50, and all of a sudden, God, there's less treasure at the end of the tunnel. Yikes.
Women's group, they call it dangerous. And that clash right there between fairness and fear is why this story is exploding.
There are reports coming out of Kentucky that the divorce rate has completely plummeted. 25%. It's gone down 25%. Like, that's significant. You know, when the divorce rate nationally rests, I don't know, I think a little bit above 50%, to have it drop 25% in one state means to pay attention. It's a reason to pay.
Oh, Lord. Now, I tell you why another part of that comes into play.
Let's go ahead and get ready with the numbers. So it looks like you make, like I said, $100,000 a year. Do you work overtime, or is that regularly what you make?
No, I work overtime. But
okay. And does that include overtime?
Yes, ma'am. It's a salaried position, so it's just straight up.
All right. Let's put some real numbers on this, because the math is what makes it.
So, as a counter-argument here, feminist variety, perhaps, stay-at-home mother types, though not always, because a lot of feminists are those career women go out there battling, but they will still petition for this sort of thing. They will say that having the divorce rate lower like that removing that bargaining chip actually hurts women, because now they will stay. Why? The claim will be they will stay in these sorts of despicable, downtrodden arrangements simply because they can no longer divorce and get the lion's share, get some fair amount. So they will stay in bad, negative, abusive conditions, as they say. That is usually the case, isn't it? When it comes to divorce in there, women pretty much always say the same story. If they're going to battle, we all know what is the story they tell. The women say the man was abusive, controlling, damaging, just all over all the time. Couldn't get away. And the men, what do they come back and say? Story as old as time. One may be a little more true than the other. I will simply let you decide on the matter. And that is simply what? She's crazy, Your Honor. She's crazy. I don't know what going. She's crazy. She crazy. Standard dynamic there. One's abusive, one's crazy. Now, you can be the judge on whether that is true or not, and whether those took place before or after. It's normally a very transparent story that you can see when claims and such come out after the fact. They don't happen during it, after. Now, people, it's a little bit chicken or the egg kind of story here, because imagine the scenario, if you will. There's been no claims throughout the entirety. No one said she was crazy. No one said he was abusive. Then after something comes up, the divorce proceeding, custody disputes and all that, then it's very rare, I think, for the men to randomly blurt out, she's crazy. Anything like that unprompted. However, it is not rare at all for one side. Usually on the women's side, we'll say, just statistically here, you can look at all that good stuff. For the women to say, he was abusive, he was abusing, he did this, he was wild, I couldn't believe all he had the things, he'd only allow me 5 beers at night, whatever it might be. That's not very uncommon at all. And so then the man who had never referred to her as crazy or wild before he hears that, and he thinks, God. She said, what? Well, she must be crazy. That we see is the chicken or the egg. Which one comes first on it? That's a whole nother story. We're getting into that side of it. So really, what we're discussing here is the drop in divorce rates in Kentucky and why that might be the case, and why it might be such a big deal. Men rejoice about it. Now, if you keep going in that same direction with it, you do have to wonder, would that result in men wanting to rejoin the marriage ceremony again? Would they take the risk? This is just one part of it now. One part of it is now addressed in this glorious state of Kentucky. Is that enough? Perhaps not, but it is moving in the right direction, because when we look at things in the United States now, such as the decline in birth rates, and you must wonder, how does that play out over long term? Because, of course, the feminists now will tell you, oh, don't worry, oh, yeah, boss babe, we don't need that. Who cares about kids living my best life? They will do all that sorts of things, but if you take a step back and project a little bit, just a tiny little ways into the future here, what do we anticipate happening? With declining birth rates, fewer natural citizens here. And that problem has to be solved because they're going to want to continue on. Companies, land, products, and all that. So where do the people come from? This is a whole other topic, importing them in from immigration and all that. Wholly different topic entirely. However, it just relate back here with the marriage here. One way to rebuild the family unit now would be if you could incentivize men into wanting to partake in that, because now many are stepping out and women are saying, oh yeah, great, we don't want you anyway. Fair, fine enough, glory to you. However, the government, if they put out some, because people are very selfish and motivated. They are only out for themselves. So if the government could formulate some kind of idea where they incentivize births and don't reward treachery for the severing of the family, as many of the divorce and custody laws have been based on over the last number of decades here for a good long while. So if they could incentivize, and both people now would be thinking, God, if we do this, if we stay together, oh, but then they're going to be in a bad situation. They hate each other and the whole family sucks. I mean, you got to bend somewhere. It's never a perfect solution. Remember Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. Glorious, wonderful quote. I'm going to say glorious one more time, throw it in there 4 or 5 in this recent outburst here. So you have to decide, what is it that you would actually like to have now and also into the future, if you think ahead, what might be better for the population, if you care about that, which many of you probably don't in that case. Screw them. That's fine. Take what you can and give nothing back. Old Jack Sparrow. Well, boys and gals, until next time. Ghostmas taking a little break. I got to get myself a little protein shake made up in the kitchen and see if I can beef up these shoulders a little bit more. Yeah. Look at that shoulder action. These aren't even pumped, by the way. These aren't even pumped up yet. Till next time.